Hello guys and gals, me Mutahar, and Apple decided to cave in and sell all of us out, ladies and gentlemen. More specifically, the lads over in the United Kingdom. Now, 11 days ago I made this video, talked about the United Kingdom basically pushing for laws to get Apple to open up a backdoor into their encrypted cloud network, right? Which means that now if the government wants to look into your information, and granted I'm sure some people will say, but Muta, they need a subpoena, they need all this paperwork for it. I genuinely believe, personally speaking, that obviously tinfoil hat on, anytime big tech and the government get together, there's probably a lot more data sharing than one would care to expect. But of course, Apple pulled that backdoor idea. They actually took away the whole front door. So for our friends in the United Kingdom, you might have noticed you lost advanced data protection. Now, for anybody that lost advanced data protection, you can at least gain something by going to someordinarygamers.store and picking yourself up a brand new Some Ordinary Gamers hoodie. That is actually, we had a request for merch, so we brought it back in. Have a whole store, coffee mugs and everything. Just feel like I wanted to, shout that out. It's still on its way, but check it out when it comes out. But you know what? Obvious shameless plugs aside, at least there is something you're getting. With Apple's, advanced data protection, this is actually a feature that was lost. So for anybody that has no idea what advanced data protection necessarily comes down to, advanced data protection is effectively an optional setting. So if you have iCloud available, you can enable this setting and it will give you a special security key or a security phrase that you should write down and store somewhere in your actual location. Because what this basically means is Apple will have an encrypted version of all of your iCloud information. So things like your messages, your iCloud drive, your notes, photos, device backup, reminders, your bookmarks, a lot of their integrated, pieces into Apple software will be backed up and it will be encrypted, meaning that if the FBI, if a hacker gets access to this information, it will be encrypted and nobody will have access but you. Now, it's an amazing feature because let's say that you don't care about the actual, government looking into your information. If a hacker gets access to this information, the benefit here is that if they get access to breached iCloud servers, which nothing is unhackable, even Apple will tell you in their own write-ups that yes, data breaches are a thing. It's massive. I mean, this is from a write-up in 2023 when Apple themselves were talking about it, and they said that, look, ransomware attacks are a big vector, but also attacks that exploit vendors. So even if Apple isn't directly involved, in an interconnected world, if an organization relies on a variety of software, that could have some level of third-party intervention, right? Like, remember when we looked at these SolarWinds supply chain attacks? A lot of this can obviously lead to potential situations with other software. So yes, if you're not worried about the government spying on you, remember, a hacker can get access to your data and then of course use it nefariously against you or even your family. So these are things you have to watch out for. This feature Apple provided was objectively good. If you looked at things like the celebrity leak of 2014 with things like the fappening, where Apple had gotten access, or certain features had gotten access via sphere phishing, having some level of backups, some extra layer of protection could have prevented this from actually being as bad as it was, right? Extra protections, extra security measures are always a good thing, in the world of cybersecurity. This is them literally selling you out. And it's to a point where obviously people who are in other governments or other countries are worrying, could the UK get my data? Now, me being a Canadian right now, I can at least confirm as of this happening, I can at least still have private cloud compute, or not cloud compute, but private advanced data protection still on my iCloud account. Now that could change, okay? Governments around the world are passing laws that take away your privacy. And if you say, Muta, I have nothing to hide, well, you're actually more so part of the problem, okay? The reality of all this is yes, most of us don't really have anything to hide, but we also shouldn't allow some scumbags to sit in our world and just grab whatever information they want. That's fucking scummy in every capacity. And if you don't agree, then there's just no real way to convince you, right? Your privacy and your basic human rights are being infringed on every day. And unfortunately, the UK seems to have this win, and obviously they're using this to say, we're going to fight against terrorism, we're going to keep the kids safe. Dog, you can't even keep your kids safe from, this getting into it, okay? Whatever. Anytime a government says they're going to keep their kids safe or protect you against some grave threat, there is some truth to it. But give these motherfuckers an inch and they'll take a mile. Simple as that. Now, this isn't even the first time that Apple sells, out the user safety and security to, again, any country's government without, laws kicking in. The Chinese cybersecurity law forced Apple to effectively remove VPN services from their country. Now, look, I understand the situation you're present in. Do you want to obviously, service a country? You have to, succumb to your privacy at some capacity? Sure, I get it. I understand. But this is the problem with a lot of these laws that are being passed, right? Like, it wouldn't even stop at just China. It could have actually enveloped the entire world. Everyone can pass a small little law that allows, again, the government to have more access into private data flows and your own personal life more than they ever really should. I mean, forget the days of a warrant. Having access to somebody's information like this is all, I guess, you really need. So now that Europeans, okay, people in the UK, not all the EU, people in the UK have lost advanced data protection, how do I protect my information and still have backups? So today I'm going to kind of teach you, again, it's not entirely meant for me to bring doom and gloom to you. There is a way you can have your cake and eat it too. And if you live in a country where you haven't lost your privacy yet, I still recommend you go through the habit of doing something known as self-hosting. So for anybody that doesn't know what self-hosting is, there's a great Reddit board that you can try right now, which will actually walk you through a lot of self-hosting projects. So literally, it's a place to share, discuss people who want to make their own clouds. So instead of relying on Apple's cloud, Google's cloud, Microsoft's cloud, anybody's cloud, you can make your own cloud because it's a big fucking sky out there. Might as well engage with it. So of course, ladies and gentlemen, in this option, we're going to do something that's obviously not simple, but we're going to be showing you how to set up your own cloud as well. So you can have your cake and eat it too. And the thing is, because these clouds are encrypted from end to end, you don't even need to rely on anybody. You don't even need to necessarily even host this on your own servers. You can choose to do it in an incredibly easy way. So here is something known as Nextcloud, which is one of the top ranking open source self-hosting solutions. So in order to get access to this right now, you can try it again with a trial right here, a 1-hour test drive if you want to take it. But we're going to walk you through how to set this up locally. Now, first things first, you want to make sure you download all of the clients you need for your desktop. So whether you got a Mac, Linux project, or Linux operating system, or a Windows system, you can install their files apps, their messaging applications, integrations into your browser. So if you want to, feed in passwords, you can through this situation. And then, of course, obviously, if you're on an iPhone or an Android, so to speak, you can download their Android or iOS applications as well. So all of this stuff is provided right there out for the average user. You install these applications on your computers, and then of course, importantly, is to install the server. There's a few ways you can do this. You can go over here and get a free Nextcloud provider, okay, 100% free single user account with 2 or more gigabytes of storage. So you go to a provider like so, and one of them is, for instance, the Good Cloud, which is right over here. You give them an email, you agree to their terms and services, and of course, you can get your stuff started right here, right now. And of course, for most people, I may even recommend this because this is actually end-to-end encryption. You don't need to necessarily be at the behest of the European government or really any government for this. But let's say you don't trust these options, right? Whatever, it's fine. Let's host this on our actual system. So inside the community projects, we're going to go to the Docker image right over here. And importantly enough, we're going to follow the instructions provided right here. So this Docker microservice is developed and maintained by the community. So what you're looking to get professional support, yada, 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 follow their advice is right here. So the image is designed to be used in a microservice environment. So using the Apache image or using things like the FPM image, we're going to use the basic Apache image right over here. So we're going to go up here and copy this command, docker pull nextcloud, and it's going to, again, download all the dependencies over here and just handle some of the more boring stuff for us. So then you want to just copy this command right here and then just hit enter. And if it says this is not available, ZSH command not found. Oh, wait, it's because we have the $ that's also copied here too. Just get rid of that, hit enter. And of course, after this, you should be able to type in, I think it's docker stats. Oh my God, I cannot type today. You see that there's something running, exciting Ishizaka. Ooh. So of course, the way that Docker is, it's kind of like a virtual machine, except it just creates containers and sandboxes that use enough resources, really, as much resources as they need. They're far lighter than just running a straight up virtual machine. So you can kind of have this and just have it sitting in the corner somewhere on your system or server. Now you can access Nextcloud at this address, so localhost 8080. So just double click that and boom, here we go, we're at Nextcloud. So now here we want to create a new admin name. So I'm going to just use my name and we're going to create a password. So as soon as that's done, we're going to be installing, and you'll notice that, yeah, the CPU actually starts spiking up. So generally this will sit in the corner doing nothing for the most part, and it'll pull resources as it needs to. So once Nextcloud is effectively here, we can now pick calendars, contacts, mails, office, notes, and talk. So we're going to install the recommended applications because we're just going to go with the recommendeds. All right, we're going to let the program build for us. Now, obviously, this is a very localized instance for just you. But obviously, if you want to own your own domain, run your own services somewhere, you can do this and host it offsite somewhere else, okay? Do not assume that this is just meant for running on a local system. I'm doing this just to show you how you can do this at the comfort of your own home. But obviously, for a cloud server, you can absolutely set this up in a set of servers that you buy somewhere else and just install through Nextcloud's actual AIO solution there. So anyways, over here they tell you it's a collaboration platform that puts privacy, interoperability, community, productivity. Remember, what you want is end-to-end encryption, something the UK has taken away from you. So at this moment in time, install Nextcloud and it'll ask you, hey, install the applications. We've already done this, okay? So more on Nextcloud. It'll tell us more about every single application. And of course, it'll take us to the hub. And if you want to share this on social media, I'm already doing it in this video. We'll be fine. So at this moment in time, how do we start backing up to this, right? So if you open up things like the files in the top corner, you can see that I have access to files in this specific Nextcloud interface, right? This is all running within this specific Docker container. Now, this is all running as a Docker container in a very micro capacity, meaning that it's not really something designed to be reaching to outside servers. If you look up Nextcloud, this is not something that you can set up in just a matter of minutes. You're going to have some domains ready. You're probably going to want to have access to certification ready, especially for if you're hosting this outside your system. But realistically, what you can do with it right now is upload files to it, store things in a local micro cloud in your own place. But of course, ideally, you want to be running this on things like a NAS. So for instance, I have a Synology NAS with this already provisioned ready to go. But let's say you don't want to spend money on just a internet connected NAS. Let's say that you have an older laptop or an older computer sitting around your house and some hard drives. You can actually get this started with off-the-shelf stuff. So I have an older laptop. I have actually an older desktop that I can plug into a corner. I can have this routed into my actual network, and we can start setting things up there. But that's going to be a video that I have just later on as next month begins, maybe even this month, where we can more specifically focus on how to set up our own clouds in a actual professional manner, but of course making it as easily and accessible as we can do it, right? Now, if you're in the European or you're in the United Kingdom right now, where obviously situations are tense with this stuff, what you should do to protect yourself is obviously disable your iCloud protection in case you don't want, some hacker getting access to that information, because now that's a serious threat to have, right? A hacker could gain access to all of that data. And effectively, you've heard of things like the happening before. The iCloud is not an exception. Even Apple will tell you in their own write-ups that, yes, vendors are being targeted. Even if it's not Apple's fault, it can be something in a chain that they're using. And mistakes do happen. Again, if you're not worried about the government looking into you, remember, losing encryption means that you are effectively allowing any hacker that gets access to that data pretty much easy pickings through your personal information. Now, obviously, when you're on the Nextcloud service, I could show you, obviously, how to install these, and we will, but this is something which does require you to go down more in depth. For now, there's a pretty easy solution into creating free accounts and just setting it up with the provider right now. So obviously, you can set up for a free Nextcloud account, for instance, right over here, and there's plenty of providers, right? So obviously, there's providers in Nepal, there's providers in Amsterdam, and of course, they host on their hardware in these countries. So some of them will give you 8 gigabytes free, some of them will give you secure hosting in other areas, but generally give them your email address, you agree to their terms of services, and you can sign up. And these guys will now ask you what your password should be. So again, set up a password at one of these cloud providers, for instance, And of course, you can log into these services and it'll just basically do their provisioning of Nextcloud for you. Now, obviously, you can set these things up with Docker containers, as I've kind of shown you in this video, but this is more of a highly simplified way to get in right now at the ground floor and have some level of your privacy still intact. So from the friends over at Nextcloud, it's very important that you read through their encryption and hardening just to kind of understand how this stuff works at a technical level. But also just for a quick TLDR, when you come with actual encryption on the clients, you're dealing with what should be end-to-end encryption. And this is where, again, the real important aspect of it is. When you're doing an offsite backup of your information, it's important that you do end-to-end encrypted file drops, server-sided encryption should be a thing, end-to-end encryption should be a thing, meaning that obviously the server hoster should not know or should not be able to be compelled to give their information up about you or have a hacker peek in and grab any sensitive data. So again, the only person that should be able to access your data is you. The server owner literally exists just as a space provider and nothing more than that. Again, you should only ever trust anyone that's providing end-to-end serious encryption. And of course, what I'm showing you here with relying on good cloud or really any vendor in the space is, again, it does require that level of trust. What I will show you very soon, once I have this set up for recording, is how to set it up on your own server in your own house with, again, all the bells and whistles. You can access your information anywhere in the world, and it is hosted just by you, encrypted to high heavens, meaning that, again, if you're compelled to give this information up, just give up the encrypted data. That's about it. But yeah, that's all I want to show you, and of course, this is just one example of how to protect yourself right now because Apple has taken away basic protections. Now, once your account is verified from their services, you can choose to get like 100 gigs, 250, 1,000 gigs for whatever amount of money you want to give them, right? But in this situation, obviously, they ensure that your privacy is safe. And I believe with Nextcloud software, it is end-to-end encrypted. Now, again, down the road, like I showed you a little bit earlier, you can set up your own Docker containers, and somewhere down, obviously, maybe in like a week or two, we're really going to take a look into self-hosting most of our data. So that will involve us to actually build our own dedicated server box that will run its own operating systems, its own containers within a real professional setup, so to speak. We're really going to go for something where, obviously, it's not jerry-rigged off of some virtual machine running off of our gaming rigs. But once we've connected to the server, it's then now simply to connect an actual application on our devices. So if you have an iPhone, which is again the targeted device, let's at least connect ourselves into this service. Now, importantly enough, in this situation, you will enter a URL for, again, the service you're on. So it could be down the road, your own server IP, your own domain. Once you get into it, you'll be asked to sign in to your actual cloud service. So give it your email, your password, whatever credentials. Then you will have been synced into the Nextcloud interface. And here you can upload files, you can enable auto backup for your photos. So you can back up whatever you really want to without relying on the iCloud any longer. So if you are affected with, again, your advanced data protection being gone, you can set this up for quick right now and get access to an encrypted backup solution. It's going to obviously miss certain things that iCloud is known for. iCloud has, obviously for specifically baked in functionalities like wallets or whatnot, this isn't going to have support for. But this is also open source and very cross-platform. So if you start here, you can then use this information across your MacBook, your Windows devices, your Linux devices. You can have this set up very easily like it's a Dropbox, or you can have it set up like OneDrive or Google Drive or any drive you become accustomed to. And with a web interface as well, this becomes as easy to use as most other functionalities on the internet. So once you're at this point where you're like logging in, you can grant access to that specific URL. And once you have connected the account, the client should actually work. And then at this point, the iOS application is there. You are now accessing the actual cloud that you just made through your iPhone account. Now, at this moment, you can set up things like, photo backup, like photo synchronization backup if you wanted to. So instead of using the iCloud, you can now back up here. Now, you can purchase more server space if this is convenient enough for you. But again, that Docker system that I was telling you, eventually, if you get that working, which I'll show you down the road very soon, you can have it running on your own servers entirely your own house. So if you don't trust these guys, which there's good reason not to, it's good reason to be paranoid, you can obviously set up your own services, on your own house. So yes, while Apple's taken away your privacy and has basically caved to the government, there are options for you to build your own cloud services or source places that are more privacy focused than at least Apple is. But yeah, anyways, big video. If you like what you saw, please like, comment, and subscribe. Dislike if you dislike it. I am out.